Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ciji Heiser. I'm the Senior Impact and Evaluation Officer for Developing Capacity Coaching. I have over 15 years of professional experience working with data and helping people use data to make decisions. Today, we're going to talk about meaningful data collection for meaningful action using culturally responsive evaluation as a framework. So, as you enter the chat and as you join us today, please share your name, where you're joining from, and maybe one thing that's giving you hope today. I can't wait to read it. There we go. So, just a little bit about developing capacity coaching. At DCC, we partner with leaders across sectors to overcome entrenched obstacles in leadership, teams, and organizational culture. With a focus on equitable outcomes and measurable impact, we deliver targeted capacity building, real world applications, and data informed strategies. Whether you're asking yourself how or now what, we provide the answers to help you build inclusive and resilient cultures that can thrive. In our time together today, we're going to focus on data as a journey, and participants will be able to identify key aspects of the data collection journey from start to finish. We're going to focus on asking clear questions and how to build evidence for decisions by starting with clear and human centered questions. Then we'll wrap up the session by clarifying our questions and aligning our questions with existing or needed data for answers and decision making. So, today I want to invite you to think about data as a journey, not just a tool, but a relationship with humans and the context and systems they navigate at the center of it. So data as a journey is really all about perspective and understanding perspective, context, and systems. We want to prioritize relationships over transactions. And the reason that we want to do this is because when we view data solely as a transactional process, we can miss opportunities. But we can also run the risk of repeating past harms where data has been used to exclude or even surveil. What we want to do instead is use data and the data journey as a transformational process, which can actually evoke healing and change. So, we're going to use culturally responsive evaluation and assessment as a journey today, as a framework for our data journey. And so, the basic assessment cycle is what is documented here for us. And it begins with planning and engaging with partners. So, this is really putting the people that you're working with at the heart of the entire process, the people that you're working with, and the people that you're working for in your services and programs. The second step is to identify the purpose of the data work and the data journey. Why are we collecting information and what are we planning to do with it? Want to make sure that we're not asking you for information we have no intention of using. Then we're going to frame the questions for the evaluation or the assessment. From there, we're going to select and adapt the measures that will best help us answer the questions in the ways that are meaningful for our organization. We'll collect that data, and this data can be qualitative, quantitative, maybe a mixture of both. I find the most compelling stories are usually a blend of numbers and stories or narratives. We're going to analyze the data, and we do this in a variety of ways, right? We can use just basic descriptive statistics. We can talk about themes that emerge from people's stories. We can talk about trends that we see in both of those things or basic frequencies of responses. From here, we share the results and we think about who might find this information insightful or actionable. We want to identify any changes that can be made with the data that we've collected. We want to make those changes, and then we want to go back to our partners. We want to re engage in the cycle all over again, and we want to identify and assess the impact of any changes that we made from the last set of information. At the heart of this journey is a cultural respect and attention to the people who that we engaged with and throughout the journey of data collection. Beyond this journey or surrounding and influencing the culturally responsive data journey is context, and this can be political, economic, social. This can be tensions that are existing in this space where you're trying to collect data that might influence the integrity of the information that you're collecting to use to make decisions. Surrounding this process from a culturally responsive approach is also this idea of collaboration throughout the entire journey. That's why it starts with planning and engaging partners. We want to collect data with care. We always want to act with benevolence and the intention of doing no harm. And then we want to interpret the data with a bias towards action. So, as you think about this data cycle and this data journey, I want you to reflect on the following questions for your own practice and for your organization. Which step do you feel like is a strength for your practice or organization? And which step is an opportunity for growth? Now, because we're recording the webinar, I'm going to hit pause here so that everybody can take the time. Everyone who's here live can take the time to reflect as a part of our session. And everybody who is not live or watching the recording can kind of take their own time and hit pause now and reflect on the questions. And we'll do this throughout the entire presentation. So if you're watching this live, please reflect. If you're watching this as a recording, please hit pause now and take the time to reflect on these two questions of strengths and opportunities. All right. All right. So today, where we're really going to focus on is collecting meaningful data using meaningful questions and framing our questions. This is so important. It's the second part of the process for a reason, because all other steps flow from the ability to have meaningful questions. You cannot collect meaningful data, your analysis will have no guidance, and your results will have no anchor point if we don't think carefully about the questions that we ask. So meaningful data begins with meaningful questions. If we think about the data journey, if we think about data as a journey, then our questions really serve as our compass. They guide the entire process. Our questions shape the measures that we select or adapt and build. They shape how we analyze the data we collect. And they get us back to the heart of why we do the work when responding to internal and external demands. For all of these reasons, that's why we're focusing on this topic today. So, when we think about reflecting on our questions, I want to give you a bit of guidance here to get started. So, as part of our reflection exercise, I want you to get out a pen and paper, get out sticky notes, whatever makes you feel joyful when you're doing deep thinking and reflecting. And I want you to think through a current initiative or program or decision that you're trying to make. So, take a moment to write this down. From here, I want you to think about the why. What is the purpose of this initiative or program? Why does it happen? What were the intended outcomes of this program? And what is your why for being involved, whether it's through the data collection or the program implementation? Take a few moments to think about this question. So finally, what are your biggest questions about the initiative or the program? In addition to this, what questions are you being asked? And as you think about this, one question you should be asking, or you could have, is are we meeting the purpose of the program or initiative? Are we achieving our why for being involved as individuals or as service providers? Just take a moment, think about this last part. What are your biggest questions about the initiative or program, and what questions are you being asked? All right. So this is an opportunity to hit pause if you are watching the recorded webinar. Moving on, we want to reflect and we want to center cultural responsiveness as we think about our questions. So I wanted to give you some prompts for being able to do that. Because how we ask questions creates an opportunity and shapes how people share their stories, their perspectives, and their lived experiences. So as you review your questions that you just wrote down, take 2 to 3 minutes to refine those questions based on these prompts that help us be more culturally responsive. And the prompts are as follows. As you think about the people you serve, how might they frame your questions? Whose perspectives are centered or silenced by these questions? What assumptions are embedded in your questions? When we think about what we're asking people to respond to, are we really sure that the individuals we're talking to have the knowledge and experience to be able to give us quality information? We don't want to waste their time. We don't want to have bad data collection. We also don't want anybody to feel embarrassed or like they're not knowledgeable because we didn't think through our questions at the onset. And then finally, our last prompt is what knowledge, experiences, or cultures are being honored or ignored in the way these questions are framed? Are we taking for granted the audience that might respond to us? And have we shaped a question in a way that really makes that audience feel seen and understood and like their cultural norms and values are respected in the framing of the question? So again, if you're watching this as a recording, hit pause now. And for the rest of you, we'll take a few minutes for you to redraft or revise your questions based on these prompts for cultural responsiveness. All right. Before we move on to the last few minutes of this presentation, where we can reflect and start to bring all the pieces of the puzzle together, I want to take a minute to talk about what data you have available to you and what counts as data. So, for inspiration, here's a list of things that could potentially count as data. Results from measures used to determine care or services for a client or partner, structured conversations that occur over time, focus on the same set of questions, demographic data such as race or gender, religion, website or program analytics, attendance and usage reports, survey responses, notes from listening sessions, maybe weekly reports that are filed by your team. These are all options and ideas to get you thinking about what can count as data. So take a few minutes and write down the different data sources or data points that are available to you. Are there data that you're responsible for reporting out that you have to collect regularly, even if you don't use it? Because here is an opportunity to start to think through all of the data you already have at your disposal before you think about the data that you might need to collect. So think about all the different data that you have available to you. If you're joining us in the recording, now is your chance to hit pause and reflect. For our live participants, take a few minutes to reflect now on what data you have available to you. All right, so now is our opportunity to bring it all together. We want to use this matrix to align our questions and our decisions with the data that we have available to us and with the data that we might be missing or need to collect. This is an opportunity to think about out of all of the data available to you, sometimes we don't make that data talk to each other. It stays in its own silos. This is an opportunity to start to break down those silos and think about if I have this one pressing question or decision I'm trying to make, these are all the data points I have that might inform that, even though they come from different places. I'm not bound. In this situation, you're not bound by, well, I just have this report in front of me and I only see one data point that could help me. Think more broadly about all of the data that you have access to and how that might come together to help you answer your questions or make your decisions. So here we want to take those questions that we initially reflected on and revise to be more culturally responsive. We're going to think about and align the data sources we reflected on or the data points that we just jotted down. And we want to align those with our questions using this matrix. And then as we go through, if there are questions where you don't have any data or you're missing data, now we have a gap that we've identified and we can start to take steps to collect that data as needed. So if you're watching this on the recording, hit pause now and reflect on this part and then join us for the close. For those of you who are here live, take a few minutes and reflect on this matrix and start to complete it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm available at developingcapacitycoaching.com. Again, my name is Ciji Heiser. If you have any questions, for those of you watching the recording, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to engage with you. And for those of you who were here today, thank you so much for your time and energy. We loved having you. I loved hearing about your feedback and your perspectives. Please share your feedback with us and let us know how we can do better next time, or if there's something else you'd like to see us talking about around data informed decision making. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.